Days of Our Lives spoilers. Kristen loses it at Bayview while telling Rachel about Sophia. Days of Our Lives spoilers reveal that Kristen DiMera, Stacy Heidick, is losing it more and more every day. Kristen has had issues since Rachel Black, Lorelai Olivia Moat, was ordered back to Bayview by the court when Rachel confessed to shooting E.J. DiMera, Dan Feuereagle. Will Sophia Choi, Rachel Boyd, cause her to lose it at Bayview? Kristen DiMera killed Sophia Choi. Sophia is presumed dead and Kristen is responsible for that. Kristen made a deal with Sophia to kill Johnny DiMera, Carson Boatman, before Kristen would help her with a new passport and money to start a new life. Salem, USA. In the twisted universe of Days of Our Lives, karma usually wears a disguise and revenge is a dish best served with a side of Stefano's secret serum. However, this week's spoilers suggest that the universe is done playing games with Kristen DiMera, Stacy Heidick. As the walls close in at Bayview, we are witnessing something more profound than a standard soap opera meltdown. We are witnessing the psychological unraveling of a woman who believed she could outsmart the devil, only to realize the devil lives in her own mirror. The Ghosts We Carry. The current storyline finds Kristen at a precipice, forced to visit her daughter, Rachel Black, at the Bayview Sanitarium. But this isn't a simple mother-daughter chat. Kristen is entering a house of mirrors where the specter of Sophia Choi, Rachel Boyd, waits to torment her. For the uninitiated, Kristen is the architect of Sophia's presumed demise. In a desperate bid to cover her tracks and protect her mini-me, Kristen recruited the volatile Sophia to murder Johnny DiMera. When the deed was done, or so she thought, Kristen bashed Sophia's head in and dumped her body in the river. The problem is, in true soap fashion, the body hasn't been found. Now, Kristen must sit across from her daughter and lie. She has to push the narrative that Sophia, Rachel's former manipulator, committed suicide out of guilt. But as Kristen attempts to weave this tale of fiction, the ghost of Sophia, or a psychotic hallucination born of guilt, is expected to appear, standing silently behind Rachel, pointing a bloody finger at her killer. The Fall Guy philosophy. To truly appreciate the creative horror of this moment, we have to look back at the dialogue that sealed Kristen's fate. This is not just about a murder, it is about the philosophy Kristen imposed upon her child. Earlier in the season, when Rachel realized Sophia had been using her as a pawn to drug Holly, Kristen sat her daughter down for a lesson in DiMera ethics. She told Rachel, "If you're not the brains of the operation, you're probably the fall guy." It was a moment of chilling maternal instruction, teaching a 10-year-old that the world is divided into predators and prey. The irony, of course, is that while Kristen was professing to be the brains, she was simultaneously setting Sophia up to be the fall guy for the Johnny murder plot. But the narrative wheel has turned. In the Bayview visiting room, the roles are reversing. Kristen is no longer the mastermind. She is the victim of her own psyche. She is the one losing control, screaming at invisible entities, and risking the one thing she values most: her relationship with Rachel. If Kristen is sedated by the Bayview orderlies, she won't just be the brains anymore, she'll be just another patient. The public versus private execution. What makes this specific loss of it so compelling is the location. Bayview isn't just a hospital. In Salem lore, it is a narrative graveyard where reputations go to die. Kristen has spent years fighting to prove she is a fit mother, often clashing with Brady Black, Eric Martsolf, over her volatile nature. Historically, Kristen has thrived in the shadows of the DiMera mansion or the tunnels beneath Salem. Her rage is usually private, calculated, and explosive in a controlled environment. But a public freakout at Bayview is different. This is a clinical setting. According to spoilers, as Kristen tries to explain the suicide, Sophia's apparition will push her over the edge. Imagine the horror of a child watching her mother scream at thin air, exposing her guilt without uttering a single confession. This isn't just a loss of sanity, it is an involuntary confession. Rachel is a sharp kid. She knows her mom. Seeing Kristen react violently to the name Sophia will plant seeds of doubt that no amount of DiMera gaslighting can uproot. This storyline is a brilliant exercise in the unreliable narrator. For weeks, Kristen has been seeing Sophia in the garden, in the mansion, in her nightmares. The show has expertly kept us guessing. Is this a supernatural haunting? Is Kristen suffering a brain injury from the struggle? Or is Sophia somehow still alive, stalking her? It doesn't matter which is true. What matters is that Kristen believes it is true. Her guilt has manifested as a physical presence. When she looks at Sophia's ghost, she sees the consequences of her actions. And because the show has positioned Kristen as an anti-heroine we love to watch, watching her suffer this psychological torment is uniquely satisfying. Will Kristen finally get the help she needs? Or will this be the beginning of her permanent transformation into the next Stefano? A villain so lost in their own schemes that they can no longer distinguish reality from revenge. When Kristen loses it at Bayview this week, she won't just be screaming at a ghost. She'll be screaming at the death of her own control. And in Salem, that is the only crime that truly carries a life sentence.